The question becomes, who are the VIPs? Is it a 2-star, 3-star general? There's a lot of traffic going into the Pentagon. The top brass at the White House, they take a Suburban or a Tesla or they take their own car. Who do these generals think they are that they have to take helicopters to go to meetings or go to air? I don't know who it was. We should find out. And the DOD
who do we ask? I mean, you're the transportation secretary. How do you not know?
The FAA doesn't know. We asked the DOD. The DOD has promised radical transparency. They should tell us who is qualified to take a helicopter out of the Pentagon. I don't know, but they have to tell us.
Well, could you just call up Hegseth?
Well, I should, actually. Why don't
Let's call him right now.
You call Pete.
Yeah, it looks like Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has learned the #1 rules of working in the Trump White House. It is never your fault, you should never take responsibility, and you're always right. Here, Duffy was asked a simple question about who uses military helicopters in D.C. airspace, and his response wasn't, "I'll find out," or "let me look into that." Instead, he needed to diffuse responsibility, and so he said, "We asked the DOD, they should tell us." Now look, in fairness to Duffy, how can we really expect the Transportation Secretary to know what's happening in transportation? And beyond that, how could we possibly expect that he coordinate with other agencies in the government that he's a part of? Yeah, in retrospect, maybe Duffy is just really incompetent. I mean, when Laura Ingraham suggested that he simply call Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth directly, Duffy's response was even more bizarre. "I should actually? You call him?" I'm sorry, but what exactly does Sean Duffy think his job is? If it's telling cable news hosts to do his job for him on national TV, give this dude a raise. The reality is that this exchange perfectly encapsulates the fundamental problem with how the Trump administration approaches governance. Sean Duffy is still campaigning. He is still in opposition mode. He thinks his job is to complain about the government rather than to run the government. This is a guy who spent years on Fox News criticizing Biden officials and Joe Biden himself, and he hasn't made the mental transition to understand that he is now the person responsible. Remember when Republicans mercilessly attacked Pete Buttigieg for every single transportation issue that came up, even if he had nothing to do with it? Following the East Palestine train derailment in February 2023, then Senator Marco Rubio sent a letter to Joe Biden calling for Buttigieg's resignation, citing what he called intentional ignorance for not moving sooner on the derailment. Rubio also tweeted that Buttigieg is an incompetent who is focused solely on his fantasies about his political future and needs to be fired. Senator Tom Cotton said, and I quote, "Pete Buttigieg couldn't organize a one-car funeral. He was never remotely qualified for this role." The list goes on, and yet despite these sky-high expectations and standards that they set for someone like Pete, shockingly, it's been nothing but crickets from these same transportation hawks now that real-world star Sean Duffy is in the driver's seat. So, just for fun, let's look at Duffy's stellar record so far. Just this week alone, Newark Airport has been an absolute disaster with 7 straight days of massive delays and cancellations. United Airlines have been forced to cancel 35 round-trip flights per day because of chronic FAA staffing shortages and outdated equipment. And then there's the January disaster, the deadliest U.S. aviation incident in over 20 years when an Army helicopter collided with an American Airlines flight over the Potomac, killing 67 people on board. And what was Trump's response? To blame DEI initiatives at the FAA under Buttigieg, something Pete immediately called despicable and factually wrong. And now we're seeing even more near misses. Just this past week, 2 commercial flights had to abort their landings at Reagan National Airport because of an Army Black Hawk helicopter taking what the FAA described as a scenic route around the Pentagon. This is from the same military unit involved in January's deadly crash. The reality is that Duffy is overseeing massive transportation department layoffs that he announced at a town hall meeting recently. He's promising that they won't affect airline safety, but given the existing air traffic controller shortage and equipment issues, it's hard to believe. United CEO has directly blamed the FAA for the Newark meltdown. But instead of taking decisive action, Duffy is on Fox News acting like he's still a commentator rather than the guy with the actual authority to address these issues. When asked a basic question about military helicopter flights, he throws up his hands as if he's just some random observer with no ability whatsoever to get answers or make changes or, at a bare minimum, to make a simple phone call. And by the way, it's worth noting that while Sean Duffy is busy taking softball questions from Laura Ingraham and figuring out how telephones work, this is what Pete Buttigieg contended with from Republicans and how he always managed to shut them down.
Well, the American people disagree. They do.
Well, no, the American people disagree with you because every year they buy more EVs.
No,
why do you think they're buying more EVs every year than before?
Because it was Present the numbers, because every...
Sure, 1.2 million vehicles were purchased last year, and every single
how many
quarter...
of them were government?
How's that?
How many of them were purchased by the government?
Approximately 0.5%.
Of the number, you're saying...
Of the EVs, about 0.5% were purchased by the federal government.
The only reason why people are buying them is because of the subsidy.
Well, the subsidy makes them more affordable and helps people buy them. That's true.
Thank you. My time has expired. How often do you take private flights?
So I assume by private flights you mean the use of government aircraft assigned to my agency, and I knew this might come up, so I brought some numbers. Since getting this job, I have taken 600, these are estimates, give or take a couple, but I've taken 638 flights.
And any of those commercial?
Say about that?
Any of those commercial?
607 of them were commercial, 10 of them were on military aircraft such as Air Force One, and 21 of them were on FAA aircraft, representing about 3% of the flights. But I appreciate the chance to discuss this because I can't help get the sense that some people want to make it sound as if I don't
Mr.
travel most of the
Secretary.
time on commercial aircraft, which of course is untrue.
Yeah. Mr. Secretary, I think the irony for most people in my district is that they're being told that they're going to have to convert to electric vehicles to reduce their carbon footprint, and yet not everyone gets to travel the way that you do.
Just once again, the way I usually travel is in economy class aboard an airliner like everybody else.
In case Sean Duffy was wondering, that is what competence and preparation look like. Perhaps Pete could also show Duffy how his phone works. But as far as Duffy is concerned, this is the problem with putting people in charge who fundamentally do not believe in government. They don't know how to use the levers of power that they've been given, and so instead of actually governing, they just continue to complain about the very system that they're now running. You've got Sean Duffy appearing on national TV, wondering aloud how the Transportation Secretary might act, as opposed to, oh, I don't know, being the Transportation Secretary. Look, bottom line is this. Republicans have spent years attacking Pete Buttigieg for every transportation issue, claiming that they could do better. But now that they're in power, they have revealed that they have no clue how to actually run the department. They only know how to criticize from the sidelines. That's not leadership, it is an abdication of responsibility. And for a party that claims to care about national security and safety, their transportation secretary not even knowing who's flying military helicopters near civilian airspace after a deadly crash just months ago should be absolutely disqualifying. But hey, at least Sean Duffy has Fox News to toss him softball questions and not press him on why he doesn't seem to understand that he is the government right now. I guess some habits are hard to break. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.